Hey there, Blade Gang. Top of the morning to you here from the Northeast on a colder and a little bit snowy day coming up near Halloween. Not sure when this will be posted, so you may get it after Halloween. At any rate, enough of the small talk. I have a different real steel knife for you today. It's a little off the beaten path, because it doesn't fall into any of the usual categories, and you'll find out why soon. So an unboxing of sorts, just to show you the box that the real steel comes in. It's quite nice, actually. A little better than your flap box that you see with a lot of companies. However, no fancy pouch or anything like that. It is a budget offering, coming in at around $60. Shout out to Justin at White Mountain Knives for getting this to me. And this is how the real steel knives come, and kind of wrapped in the microfiber cloth. Very nice, fleecy kind of microfiber cloth. And let's see what we got. Put all this aside. So, this you may recognize as a Sidus, a Poltergeist Works design, produced by Real Steel. A little different, however. If you notice, we have something missing. You don't see a thumb stud, and you don't see a flipper tab. So how the heck do you open the thing? Well, you can roll it open. And you can flip it with a little bit of friction. This is what they refer to as the Sidus Free. And it's an interesting advertising approach. It's free to be opened with two hands. Now that's very interesting. It doesn't appear to be too freeing, right? Most of us no longer open our knives with two hands unless you've got a friction lock folder or one of the older style nail nick knives. They did put a nail nick on this, and it's quite nice looking. It's comes out to be a small hole integrated with a fuller that runs the full length of the blade. Good thickness on the back. And you've got the type of pivots that they use on the Sidus series that you can see straight through. This is canvas micarta. Black canvas micarta. It comes with some of the threads looking a little on the light side, so what you do is use a little vegetable oil. And it's kind of a trick that I learned from Zelrick's channel, Todd Knife and Tool. You can invigorate the linen micarta. This is canvas micarta. Either linen or canvas micarta can tend to have some of that white showing through, or the fiber showing through. A lot of people like that. Depends upon the type of canvas micarta you get. If you get a brown canvas micarta, kind of a burlap look, it's preferred sometimes. So we'll get the measurements in a minute, but it's a liner lock with no thumb stud and no flipper tab. I got to tell you, this came very tight and very stiff, so you really could only open it with two hands. I've seen these opened by people with one hand. So I said, well, what am I doing wrong? So I took it apart twice, used some malubaloy grease on what ends up being a bronze or copper, probably bronze bushing with a kind of a plastic rubbery kind of bushing next to it. So the bronze sits next to the blade, the black bushing of some sort of plastic material sits on top of that. And then I adjusted the pivot, and this is interesting because this is a hex wrench, a hex inside of that hole. You can see it if I get the light right. If I can shine a little extra light there. So it's kind of hidden, but there is a hex head, if you will, hex hole in there. On the other side, you have a slotted screwdriver looking flat bit sort of thing, but that won't move. That's locked in place by a D-shaped interface with the handle and the liner underneath. So after loosening it up, lubing it up, and yes, it is centered, adjusted it till it wasn't too hard to get it back on center again. I have it so I can flick it. And it's pretty low profile in that there's nothing sticking out. So there's a deep carry pocket clip with, unfortunately, button head screws. They don't seem to want to use flat screws. I didn't have any problems getting it in and out of the pocket. This is relatively smooth with a little bit of texture. The canvas micarta is. And it's a nice knife because the ergos on this handle fit just about any hand. You have a large, what would you call it, choil area, finger groove, and a nice palm swell. So you can hold it back like that. You can choke up. You have some nice aggressive jimping here, not going anywhere. We will not slip on that. You have a blade that is flat ground, high, very decent edge on it from the factory. Here we go with my famous paper cutting test again. Oh yeah. As Doug says, it will cut. So let's get some measurements on it before we get too far in. Overall length of the Sidus free. By the way, this comes in a shred carbon fiber, non-glowing type, and plain old G10. And I think that's it. G10 and shredded carbon fiber. 8 1/4, we'll call it, to the butt. 3 1/2 inch blade, 3 1/2 inch cutting edge. For some reason, this is listed on both the Real Steel site and on White Mountain's site as a 4-inch blade. Well, there's no way it's a 4-inch blade, so somebody got it wrong and it just got passed along. One of the reasons I got it is I thought I was getting a little larger blade, but, you know, for a little over $50 or so, it's a keeper. Good materials. Yeah, it is D2, by the way, for the steel. And what have we got for blade stock? 3.1. What do we got for handle thickness? We've got almost 0.6, 0.58, so a little on the thick side. It is contoured, kind of chamfered along the edges. The pocket clip is interesting in that they did an extra little shelf of milling here. Looks like a reflection, but it's actually cut in there. And they've got a very small Real Steel logo on there. Pretty thick liners It is weight relieved on both sides. So an effort was definitely made to take some weight out with some cuts. You've got some high circles right there on the clip side. You've got some larger ones on the show side. You have a nice relief here for releasing the liner, which is jimped. Doesn't take much effort. One of the things I did, by the way, if you get one and you're wondering why it's still stiff, I lightened the detent by disassembling the whole thing, taking the liner lock side of the liner and bending, putting some pressure on it a little at a time to take some of the pressure off that it places when it's in the closed position. So right there, that gets bent away from the liner a little at a time, a little bit at a time. Just kind of flex it. You don't want to overdo it. And got it to where I wanted it. So it's not going to shake free. But you can still, you got to sort of get your finger in there and roll it out. It's not the easiest thing in the world. It's not, certainly not like having a thumb stud. Let's get a weight on this before we forget. 4.25 ounces. Not bad. It's a mid-range knife, 3.5 inches, so it doesn't quite make the inch per ounce rule. It's heavy-ish feeling, even with the weight relieving. I would attribute that to the thickness of the liners. They're pretty thick. We've got a micarta backspacer here as well. It's a little interesting taking it apart, but you know, it's not tremendously difficult to break it down if you're used to taking liner locks apart. And well, I got it in the closed position. The handle is roughly 4 3/4 inch. So closed, it's 4 3/4 inch. So you can use it as a two-hand opener if you don't tune it up. If you tune it up, then you can open it pretty successfully with one hand, one thumb. Here it is against the Freak. Very close in size. Pivot to pivot. A little longer handle on the Freak. Blades are identical. Against the larger knife, like the Rat 1. Yes, this is my Rat 1 with the serrations. I ain't going to trade it in. It's not really a user. There's no clip on it. So, a little longer blade, maybe 1/4 inch or so. Somewhere in that vicinity. Longer handle, fairly significantly. Last but not least, the griptilian. So the grip, pretty close in size. I would say a skosh smaller blade length in the same handle. So there you have our different knife of the day. The Real Steel Sidus Free in D2 and black canvas micarta. If you like this, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm slowly coming up in subscribers, and I appreciate each and every one of you who has subscribed to the channel. The intent is to grow it and stay diverse with what we're putting out there. Thank you very much. This old sword signing out.